Now, for more on Trump's legal challenges and the indictment, I'm joined now in Washington, D.C. with Adolfo Franco. He's an attorney and Republican strategist. Adolfo, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
37-count indictment could face up to 20 years. How does espionage come into this? This is a law that was passed more than 100 years ago. Is this what it was meant for?
No, of course not. And let me just speak quickly about the 37 counts. It's two things that the Justice Department likes to do is something called stacking. It's repeating the same things over and over again. If you look at the indictment carefully and read it, it sounds like there's 37 separate crimes or accusations of crimes, I should say. And of course, that's not the case. It's stacking. The espionage issue is a process. It kind of sounds terrible, espionage. Obviously, President Trump was not going to be engaged in espionage. It's a statute that was intended to apply to World War I, interference with combat operations, and really treason in World War I. Famous American politician Debs was involved in this. That was the genesis of it. It's been amended since that time. It has been applied. It's a process allegation as well. Generally, it's Section 7093E of that's applied. That doesn't require any willful intent. So it's a technical matter more than anything else. The overall indictment, I will say, in terms of the accusations, the ones that are more problematic and certainly the president will need to address are in paragraphs 34 and 35, which have your reporter reference to, which are audios. And audios of the president saying that this document is classified when he is speaking to a writer that was involved in writing for his former chief of staff. So that's the most, the one that requires, there's an explanation you can explain for that, but that is, if you will, most damning one, if you will, if you want, of all the accusations.
Why would Mr. Trump, though, hold on to such sensitive national security after leaving the White House?
Well, a couple of things to understand. There were 13,000 documents that were reviewed. Only 130 of them were classified, but classification has different standards. Many of the documents that are classified are actually confidential. Some of those 130 are confidential. That's a very low standard. Mr. Comey, the former FBI director, provided, and he admitted, a confidential, if you will, classified document to a New York Times reporter. Nothing happened to him.
But we're talking about Trump. I mean, we're talking about U.S. states' nuclear programs, defense and weapons capabilities for both the United States and foreign countries, including Iran, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies, military attacks, plans for possible retaliations. I mean, this is not, this is really serious. This is a huge threat to the country, surely.
Well, if you look at what former presidents have taken, as a famous case with Bill Clinton, and the Records Act is that former presidents can take documents. President Clinton has taken them, President Bush, President Obama, and of course, Joe Biden has thousands of documents, and you have no idea what those documents are about. I can tell you they're all classified.
Well, if Biden was indicted, we'd be talking about Biden, but we're not talking about Biden, we're talking about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the one that's been indicted.
You have a good question in that. Think about what you're just saying. You want to skip over very quickly what most Americans perceive here, which is a two-tier system of justice. So President Biden has thousands of documents, by the way, which he stole because he was a senator. He had no right to these documents. President Trump did as president. He had documents in his possession that goes back decades that are top secret and classified.
The difference is Biden has allowed the FBI to go and search his home and residences to find those documents. Trump tried to move them from Mar-a-Lago to his residence.
President Biden has moved them from his house to the University.
We're not talking about Biden, we're talking about the Trump case. Can we stay on point?
This is the problem here. You're talking about a two-tier system of justice. This might work in China, but it doesn't work in the United States.
But sir, you're a lawyer. We're talking about a particular legal case. So can we stick to this case, please?
Well, this case has to do with the equal application of the law. And that is exactly what has to happen here. That is absolutely relevant, what I am saying.
But this is not without evidence. There's videos, there is recorded conversations, there are employees testifying against him. Trump gave a directive to move the boxes to his residence. Biden said, open doors, FBI can come on in. And also, this is an investigation for Biden. It's ongoing. So as soon as that indictment, if it actually happens, we'll have you on the program to talk about Biden. But right now, I'm asking about Trump.
Well, that's fair enough, but I can guarantee you there will be no indictment, and you won't have the program because it's a two-tier system of justice, and that's what's underlying all this. The fact of the matter is, even this indictment, just so you know, are accusations. You have no idea if any of these things are true. There hasn't been a court of law. You and the excited reporter you had before.
Well, obviously there will be a trial. Obviously there will be a trial. Okay, given that we're not getting much legal insight, as a Republican strategist.
Well, no, you have plenty of legal insight.
Okay,
I have just
as a Republican strategist,
I have just told you. Now,
as a Republican strategist, how will this impact his campaign? How will it play out among the GOP ranks?
I have told you this, just to be clear to you, because you're not listening and this is propaganda. There's plenty of legal analysis. This is stacking. I told you this is stacking by the Justice Department. Secondly, there was a Records Act that gave the president the absolute right to have these documents. Thirdly, there is no obligation under American law to cooperate when there's an obstruction case, which is an illusion here that's been done. Thirdly, documents that former presidents have are moved all the time. So you have jumped into a huge conclusion, and I haven't given you a legal analysis that will be the basis of
my conclusions are based off the reporting. Can we move on just to one question? I think you could shed some really interesting light. This is an international channel, and I think you could send some really good light on this case in terms of a Republican strategist. How will this impact his campaign? How will it play amongst the ranks of the GOP, especially considering that we've got DeSantis, we've got Pence? How will things look in the lead up to the elections?
I think two things. I think this favors him dramatically. You'll see the numbers again, as they did after the Bragg persecution. These are not prosecutions, but persecutions. After the Bragg incident, you saw his numbers go up. I think you'll see his numbers go up. His fundraising is already up in the last 24 hours. You've seen the other candidates rally behind it. I don't consider Mr. Christie and Mr. Hutchinson ever have been Trump supporters, as you know. So among the Republicans in the race, they're rallying behind President Trump, and I think it will continue to help him. But the strategy here, just so you know, as you asked for the analysis, is that the Democratic Party actually wants him to be the nominee with these indictments hanging over him, because these trials, and other indictments are coming down the pike, by the way, in other cases. These trials will never take place before the election. So the American people are going to be faced with an election with an indicted president who has not had an opportunity to clear his name. People are drawing all kinds of conclusions before he has his day in court. And that is the Democratic strategy, that he is so wounded that only the Republican base will support him because the American people will not vote for a candidate with this kind of cloud over his head. And that is a very serious development in our country. The real story here you should be doing is how this country has now turned into a banana republic with a party in power persecuting the president. Keep in mind, Mr. Garland, the Attorney General, who's a Biden appointee, he's the one that cleared this indictment. Mr. Smith is a special counsel, not an independent counsel.
All right.
So this is the political motivation.
Adolfo Franco, thanks very much for your time. Attorney and Republican strategist.